welcome everybody on yet another, I think, very interesting roundtable in the series of roundtables on smart asset management that we organize as world-class maintenance. We again have a great group of experts from all walks of life almost. The topic today is not a very straightforward topic. It's still very much emerging. It's even so new that this doesn't have a single name. So when we made the list of topics 4 years ago, when we did the original Delphi for this, that has led to this list, it was still called 3D design. And then it changed to virtual and augmented reality, VR or AR, or the other way around. And nowadays, there is also much talk about digital twins, which can also be part of other topics, but is often used also in this context. So new that it doesn't have a name yet. It sounds like almost like an unborn child. Welcome everybody. Can I ask you to unmute the mic, introduce yourself a little bit, and give an example also in the Sitech context of a situation where you think, well, here is a good use of these new technologies in visualization.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Robert Derks. I'm working for Sitech. 10 years, 15 years ago, that was all DSM. Sitech is one of the service providers of the Gemmelot site. So we provide a lot of services from projects, turnarounds, maintenance, chemical engineers, IT solutions for all the users of Gemmelot except for Sabic. And so we have customers like OCI, Alexeo, Anchor, Vibrant, and Borealis. Okay, now my role is to look at Industry 4.0, to look at what is happening there. And that's the reason why I also are looking at virtual reality and augmented reality. And my role as a program manager to look what we can do with this and to do proof of concepts and try to make something happen. Now we are looking, and we are looking at virtual reality especially because what we are doing now is that we do laser scanning of plants, 3D laser scanning, and we can also use that. That's one of the starting points of the digital twin, but that's another story. We can talk about that for half a day, I think. But we use the 3D laser scanning for making virtual reality instructions. So we can put that into Unity and make their virtual reality instructions, and then we use the same gaming levels, a level that you are helped 100%, and then the highest level is that you have to do the instruction in 10 minutes and start the compressor. So virtual reality combined with the 3D laser scanning is something we are very happy with, and we think that that's a very good thing to train people.
Yeah, and a very good example indeed, and also shows you how practical it can be. Yeah. But it would, of course, from an ivory tower, you say, hey, but isn't there then a 3D design of the whole plant? No, of course not.
Oh, no.
But and with this laser scanning, things can be done quickly, and indeed and I like the idea of using a gaming interface of actually to teach people. I know my kids have no other way of learning than via gaming almost. So that sounds good. Okay, thank you for the example.
Yeah, we also did a pilot with augmented reality. And that was done by Vibrant, and it was at the beginning of this year. And we did a proof of concept with FieldBit.
And what is that?
Yeah, that's one of the applications in which you can use a device like a mobile phone or a tablet.
Yeah.
and then you can scan a part of the plant, and you can add augmented reality to it, and then doing a checklist, a working instruction, and think it that you have done it. Yes. And you can also use it to, we call that meestergezel. I don't know the English word for that. That you can ask help from the control room operator or from the senior mechanic.
And that's with a standard mobile device.
Of course it has to be RTX, but that's not something special.
Yeah.
But what we learned is that augmented reality technology is not far enough to use in the chemical industry, and that's because of the position recognition. That is what we learned. So augmented reality is not something we are looking into the next year.
Well, that's also a very good lesson. I can't even call that an example of bad practice, because that's very useful information. So experiment succeeded, patient died. That's more or less what.
Yeah, that was our conclusion. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Well, let's see what our other experts have to say on this. So, Frans, can you also give us a short introduction of yourself and also of your work environment in combination with an example of good practice in VR AR?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you also for inviting and being part of this webinar. My name is Frans van Akker, and I'm a program director at the Institute Sustainable Process Technology, and my program is dealing with digitization. And so we've been looking to the possibilities of both augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed modes of those two. And indeed, we're also looking into digital twinning. We have some experiences. I'd like to share a couple of them. Augmented reality is also about giving information at the exact moment and the exact place that you need it. So if you're in a maintenance mode, it's interesting that you receive the information about the exact unit you are in front of, you're working with. And so if you mark your equipment with a code, can be a very simple QR code or something else, combine it with augmented reality. At that moment, you get the augmented reality of that situation, including the information that you need, and you can combine it also with the latest maintenance state of that unit. So that's what we encountered is very useful. It's very simple, but immediately helping. And the other thing about all these wearables and visualization, as you called it in the start of this webinar, is that it also introduces the possibility to use both your hands and another device, a wearable device. So showing information on a glass, for instance, helping you with your augmented reality gives a real new dimension to your maintenance experience. And the other thing, in just in one sentence, is that we really have good experience with the training possibilities. Indeed, with including gamification or without gamification, training people in unexpected situations, augmented reality, for instance, with safety incidents, that's really something you augmented and virtual reality gives to you, and not, hopefully not, the real reality. So that's our experience.
Yeah, it's as soon as you talk about simulation, it becomes interesting to simulate things that are really scary and dangerous, but don't happen in the real world. That's true for the pilots and for online racing, but also indeed for maintenance. No. Okay, thank you, and great to hear. Yeah, and then we come to my friend Antonio Martinetti, because he is from the academic side looking into these new technologies.
Yes.
It's probably well, just give some examples of what you guys are doing, and leave some for Sarah, I suppose. But tell me.
Well, thanks, Henk. I'm Alberto. I'm working as a assistant professor in maintenance engineering at the University of Twente. Well, as my name suggests, I'm Italian. At the university, I have the pleasure, in a way, to combine, let's say, more the academic part with also the application with the industry. We already have explored both virtual reality and augmented reality. In that sense, they are powerful technologies, and in a way, there is this feeling that the companies want to jump in on these technologies. But yeah, as we know, technologies are powerful if we use it in a proper way, right? When we need it. So we could imagine a world with augmented reality and virtual reality companies that are using all over the place, but that's in a way should not be the way. It's like condition monitoring, right? You want to use it where it is efficient and where you have a real problem. Those are two examples, one with virtual reality in the transportation and the other one, let's say, maintenance of a vehicle. And you see that there is a lot of opportunity, because the virtual reality is used a lot for trainings, of course, because you can create a nice training program with them. We can also tailor the program to the needs of the users, so we don't have to follow, let's say, a normal learning program. And with augmented reality, especially in these periods where social distancing and pandemic, you can also, let's say, let users, instead of maintainers, to do some maintenance task, because they, as Frans said before, they are guided through digital information that appear, let's say, on the screen, that for example, that they can wear, like wearable technologies. So I think that there is a lot of power on both of them, and the digital twin as well. But what I suggest to the companies or to the students when they are working on that is that let's start small and starting from a problem, because this is where you can be really efficient and you can gain the most benefit out of let's say, these new technologies.
Yeah, and I like the point that you make about Corona, because now it's all in our face that you can't be physically there. But I just think that will be a temporary thing that will lead to a structural change, because it's always a good idea that the people who are close to the machines maintain them as much as possible.
Yeah,
and that you have specialized knowledge more centrally located, so from a distance. Only now you have to do it via the phone or an email, and then you can look over somebody's shoulder. So that, but it is of course much sped up now that traveling is more problematic than it used to be. Okay, yeah, a great example again. Roland, please introduce yourself and some of the things, the wonderful things you guys are doing.
Yeah, first, my name is Roland Grim, program manager at Brabant Development Agency. For you who don't know what the development agency is, we invest in innovative startups. We support foreign companies who want to establish their business in Brabant, and we try to support developments, innovative projects within the ecosystem. My role, together with the program manager from the province of Brabant, are working out the execution of the smart maintenance program for Brabant. And one of the most important themes, of course, for smart maintenance is the development of AR, VR, together with digital twins, and the way that they can be interconnected, and the companies that we have in our region, how we can help them further in these developments. Well, I know Ruud Dullens, of course, very well, because before I went to the BOM, I worked for a company that was specialized in technical documentation already many years at that time. But in 2006, we had a combined project with BlueTea for the that was the defense organization, and we were already at that time making an augmented reality prototype. But at that time, the one who was wearing the glasses had to have a card with a PC next to him and a big strong cable when he wanted to move around the truck. But anyway, we were already experimenting with that, and you can see now from 2006 until now, there's a lot of developments on the hardware, better hardware, better using like platforms like Unity. But on the other hand, the implementation in the real life, and especially in the asset life cycle, is still, in my opinion, not embedded enough. So I think there's still a lot of work to get that. But I like to hear those stories from Sitech where they say, well, we are already working with it. AR is applicable in our organization, maybe a little bit less, but VR anyway. So that's very good to hear. And yeah, and I think, as also Frans mentioned, it's very good that you don't look at AR, for instance, only from the visualization perspective, but always keep in mind it is also a matter of connecting to other systems. History of the maintenance process has to be connected with it. The part system, that if you look at something and it recognizes the product, that you get the info from the part systems, and yeah, and the way that you can use digital twin to support that whole process. So very interesting.
Okay, thanks. So again, a different viewpoint. We already had industry, we have government, we have education. Now let's have some entrepreneurs out there. Ruud, from BlueTea. So please introduce yourself to the audience, although they probably know you, but at least to our YouTube audience. And could you give us one example of good practice from your vast experience?
Yeah, thank you, Henk. Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur, as you said. I have my own company that is actually a software development company called BlueTea, and within this company we develop custom products for our customers that are focused on knowledge transfer. And I use this word in particular because in some cases you see that virtual reality and augmented reality and also digital twins are the main subject of what you want to achieve, where we see in the market of building simulations for training, for support on the job and stuff like that, we see that very often the technology is the driver to achieve something, where in our experience, it's important to look at what you want to achieve. Just as Alberto already said, is look at the problem that you want to solve and then match the technology and start small. So I have plenty of examples, and you said name only one, but of course we have plenty of examples because this is what we do. We develop applications, and I heard the word proof of concept very, very often, but we try to stay away from proof of concept because the technology is there, you can use it, and if you focus very much on the issue that you want to solve, then it's only a matter of implementing it, basically. And it's, in practice, it's not as simple as that. We experience that with our customers because using virtual reality, augmented reality, and digital twins also have some implications if you look at IT systems, for instance. One of our customers, that's maybe the negative example in good use, is they are using an application of ours, also facilitating technology, such as AR and VR, but their process for deploying an application such as that is about 3 months. So in their IT system, deploying an application goes through a specific track, and that takes a lot of time to get it to the user. So if you then want to use AR or VR and you have to deploy it to, let's say, 50,000 people working in their service department, then you have a big challenge. So it's important to get to grasp that small thing that is called the problem that you want to solve in the end. And also what I wanted to mention is that stuff that we run into is that development using AR, VR, which can be very powerful. And I'm going to give an example of a VR application where basically VR was the only possible solution in a virtual environment. But application of AR and VR still relies on specialized knowledge from programmers and 3D artists and stuff like that. For anyone who wants to use it in practice, and really for practical training, but also on-the-job use using augmented reality, where you get support directly where you need it, please take note of the fact that you actually can split the knowledge that is in your application and the application itself. For the application itself, deploying AR and VR, you need specialized programmers. You need people that have programming knowledge. But from the asset side, so the things that you do with your application, the procedures, the scenarios, the levels, whatever you want to name it, and you can actually disconnect that in a way if you think of the application from a start in a disconnected way. And the advantage that you then have is that you can elaborate on what you've developed and what you used in your proof of concept. You can elaborate and reuse the stuff that has taken a lot of money probably, and also a lot of pain in developing, and then reuse it because you can elaborate easily by changing your scenarios and adding scenarios based on your virtual world that you already have. So that is something, if you take that into consideration during the development, it becomes extremely powerful. Well, as BlueTea, of course, obviously we have tools for that is ready to use, but people in this meeting also have different backgrounds and use different manufacturers, of course, that still you can take this information and try to come up with solutions that make your application smarter in the end. So I would come up with one example. A VR, I'll name a VR example, which is not even connected to maintenance, but you can easily relate to maintenance. We got a question from a hospital, which is COVID related in this case, and they needed to train nurses in the emergency room. But training in the emergency room is a challenge because it's not available. Never. It's always planned. If you need a surgical procedure, you always have to wait. So they are always full. And we tried to do a desktop type solution for them in physically preparing this surgery room, basically. And that was impossible. So this was exactly where virtual reality is basically the only way of doing it, and is an extremely efficient way, because this trainee gets the feeling of this real environment in a virtual way and can do anything he wants without breaking anything. And then when he gets to the real environment, he actually recognizes everything that is there. And this is easy to translate to large assets in the environment of the industry and service and maintenance, because if you have a large asset that is not accessible, it's easy to translate virtual reality then to that, just also as Wilbert already said. So yeah, that's a little bit of our experience.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think often, it struck me in the last few months that many of the examples that we can give are from healthcare, because somehow there are more examples there of using smart technologies, but it's so easily translatable to the world of maintenance, because also there you need condition information on a very valuable asset. Anyway, thanks for sharing, Ruud. Sarah Scheffer, also from Twente University of Twente. What is it? But one of our new rising stars in our wonderful field. Sarah, could you introduce yourself a little bit, and also give an example of good or bad practice that you have come across?
Yes, I can do that. So my name is Sarah Scheffer, and I started recently as a PhD candidate at the University of Twente. And for my project, I work together with the academic world and the industry. So I work together with the Royal Dutch Railway NS. And I came across some things during my research. So we see that the traditional trains are evolving and becoming more digitized trains. And we see that this transition is quite complex. So we see, for example, that information technology systems and operational technology systems need to be converged in order to have properly digitized systems and trains. And maintenance of these new trains is becoming really complex and difficult. And we see, for example, that the technicians are really traditional maintenance providers. And so it's really difficult for the employees to see what kind of maintenance needs to be performed for digitized trains. And therefore, my research focuses on augmented reality technologies to give the employees a bit more guidance of how to perform certain maintenance practices and how to perform the maintenance tasks. And we also see that it's really possible to scale and train employees on how to perform these tasks. So we see that early identification is really necessary for this industry. And within NS, we see that AR is still in the exploring phase. So it's really difficult for them to use this kind of technologies because it's new. And for example, the configuration management is not really up to date and not always operating efficiently. And yeah, for example, they do have some examples of using VR technologies to, for example, train the train drivers. And this is something that could be explored even further. But I've seen and I've noticed in this industry that it's highly complex to actually perform these kinds of technologies because it's really new and you really need a digitized environment. So that brings a bit more complexity to the topic.
Yeah, it's nice that you mentioned those train simulators because I think in as far as simulations go, so virtual reality simulations with a bit of augmented to it, then in the area of airplane pilots, ship, how do you say that? The conductors of actually steering a ship, indeed, certainly also trains. Specialized training facilities have been around for, well, certainly in the aircraft for decades. And we're quite used to that, how you operate such a very complex asset, how you make sure that it goes the right direction and you don't land with your nose or don't drift to the shore. That's already very well known and also known for training. But the maintenance was just beginning. Okay, this is a very good initial round, and you see that we have quite some diversity around the table. I think it's time to move to the second question of the day.